Dana Brown on the Astros flagship said this morning, and oh my God, I am now starting to freak out about Kyle Tucker. So here's the good. He's starting light baseball activities on the field and hitting inside. He's dealing with soreness, and the deep bone bruise is really sore. He needs to be fully healthy, but he's making progress. Light baseball activities, making progress. But he also said, I'd be really disappointed if it was September, but we're optimistic it'll be before September that Kyle Tucker returns. Okay, so this has gone from a couple of days to before September.
I mean, at this point, if I was to bet on this, my bet is we'll see Kyle Tucker in 2025. It's just the way it's going. It's going so slow.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about September. Dana Brown never, ever does that. He never gives a real timeline. To say they'd be disappointed if it was September, yeah, they're optimistic, but it's going so slow. That's terrifying. That Kyle Tucker, maybe they're going to have to do a lot more at the trade deadline than just add a starting pitcher and a bullpen arm. Because you're not going back to the World Series. You're not going back to the ALCS without Kyle Tucker. I don't see it.
Especially with the struggles of the offense of late. To the point where in this conversation with the Astros flagship, Brown mentioned that Pedro Leon, who is the Astros' best player in the minors right now, at the AAA level at the very least, he's hitting 300 plus. He's got, I think, 17 homers, 80 RBIs or so. He apparently could actually be up on the major league roster at some point. And that's interesting because of the depth that the Astros have in the outfield that you at least think they have. But all right, if they're thinking about moving Pedro Leon up at some point, that makes me wonder if it's because Tucker is going to take a lot longer to get back.
Yeah, I mean, if they see Pedro Leon coming up, it means to me a couple things. Obviously, they didn't trade him at the deadline, duh. But it will probably speak more to Chaz and his struggles, Jake and his recent struggles, as you know, he's now below 240 on the season. If that continues and you're not going to get Kyle Tucker back, you might have to really explore finding an alternative option. And Pedro Leon, if you're not going to acquire someone at the deadline, he might be that. And I still think that when you talk about a bullpen arm, the most logical player to trade is Chas McCormick or Jake Myers, and trading those to a team that has great bullpen depth but struggles in the outfield. That, to me, is still the most logical trade that will happen at the deadline, is that Chaz is traded for a bullpen arm. And as soon as that happens...
It will or could happen? Logical trade that will or could happen?
I think it will happen.
You think it will happen? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think Chas McCormick will be on the Astros when we start our show next Wednesday.
Interesting. I like that one.
I think he will get traded.
Write it down. I wonder who will actually trade for him with the way he's played this year. But he did have a very good season last year. As far as the deadline priorities for the Astros as we continue, are you down with Dana Brown? He said this. Here he is being a politician. We have a chance to move the needle. That's our goal. We just got to get a deal done. We want to get a starter to really impact our rotation and a bullpen piece. We're in the grind to make it happen. Interesting that he brought up starter and bullpen, not a bat. Continued Brown. We're looking at all avenues. Anything to make this club better. But most important is a starter. If we can add a bat, we'll try and do that too.
I don't think they're expecting Luis Garcia to come back this year. And I don't,
wow, Joe, you're just dropping takes on us. Let's go.
And I don't understand Justin Verlander as much as I don't understand Kyle Tucker. I was talking to Poor Marine about this yesterday on Twitter when I put out that, you know, Dana Brown needs to be on the phone. He brought up Tucker and JV. And I'm where I'm at with Justin Verlander, where I'm at with Kyle Tucker. I just don't understand because they're not telling us the severity of the injury. You know, it's a neck injury. Mm-hmm. It was just a stiff neck. And it's just... he's not making real, substantial progress. Both these guys, you're talking about September for them. JV's going to need a rehab start as well at this point. Last update we got was he threw 15 pitches last week, I think it was.
Something like that.
So he's a September guy, end of August. Kyle Tucker might be end of August, September guy. The Rangers are on your ass.
They're 3 games back.
They're playing the White Sox, and they're playing bad competition right now.
And you're more concerned with them than you are the Mariners.
100%. And last night just reaffirmed it with what the Mariners did against the Angels.
They lost 5-1 to the Angels.
Yeah.
The Rangers beat the White Sox 3-2.
So I can't trust that the Astros, what they're saying about Tucker and Verlander and Garcia is actually the truth, because these small injuries supposedly have turned into major injuries.
They've kept him out for a while, and maybe they are just being cautious. With Garcia, that jumped when I heard you say that.
Well, because he had the little setback. Mm-hmm.
But it felt like the last update for Garcia was, he's doing what he was doing not that long ago again.
It's just he still seems so far away. It still feels he's 2 to 3 rehab starts away from coming back. So you're still talking 15 days.
No, I get that. I heard you say that you aren't expecting Garcia back, and maybe you were talking McCullers.
No, I mean Garcia. If he needs 2 or 3 more rehab starts at this point, I'm negative Nancy right now. I'm just expecting something to go wrong. It just feels like everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for the Astros in their rehabbing of their injured players this year, whether it's McCullers, Garcia, Verlander, Tucker. Unfortunately, they're not probably doing anything wrong. It's just a lot of bad luck. But I don't think you can go into the trade deadline on Tuesday next week and say with confidence that Justin Verlander and Luis Garcia are the saviors to the Houston Astros in 2024.
What are you talking about? Dana's going to tell us that those were the trade deadline acquisitions. And Pedro Leon, also a trade deadline acquisition. And, if Kyle Tucker comes back, also a trade deadline acquisition. But it's like the waiver trade deadline.
It's September
the old school trade deadline.
Yeah, when they got JV.
Yeah. Dana Brown's bringing it back, at least with how he frames it. Are you down with Dana Brown? The last couple of things that he had to say, he is focusing on pitchers. A 3rd or 4th starter would be great. It's going to cost you. It would be nice to lock one down and put them in our mix. It'll be difficult to try and get a number 1 or number 2 in this market. So they're looking for a 3 or a 4. Continue Dana. We're in the market and acquiring the best pitcher possible. Well, hang on. Then try and get a 1 or a 2, right, Dana? If we can lock down, continued Dana, a starter, we feel really good about that. And also adding a bullpen piece, we're working our tail off to make that happen.
It makes a lot of sense. They don't have the prospects to go get Tarek Skubal or Garrett Crochet. The White Sox pitcher you mentioned, I can't remember his name. I was talking to a buddy about him last night.
The White Sox pitcher's name is Eric Freddie.
They might have enough for him, but if the White Sox have the fortunate position that if they're talking to 3 teams about Garrett Crochet, then they can say, hey, well, if you don't get Crochet, what do you want for this guy? And they can kind of raise the price of him as well. So you might be out of that market. And your best prospect right now is Jacob Melton. And, TK and Blum talked about this last night. Dana Brown has been quoted last year at the deadline saying that he would lose sleep if he traded Jacob Melton.
Imagine having nightmares over that.
That's your Kyle Tucker replacement.
What a weirdo.
I know, but that's who's
replacing. I traded Jacob Melton. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, God.
Just waking up in a cold sweat.
I would more have nightmares about, I don't know, my training staff being a bunch of 1600s barber surgeons accidentally hacking people's limbs off.
Yeah.
Allegedly. I don't know if they're actually doing that. It just feels like that at some times.